As a student and in your career, you're going to have to give many presentations. Most people find this a frightening and unpleasant experience. This shouldn't be the case. Presentations are a great opportunity to impress employers, coworkers, and colleagues. A good presentation will explain your point of view, hopefully bring people around to it, and make a good impression for you. Most people are concerned that their presentations, though, won't be very good. After having sat through many yourself, you'll understand that this is a well-founded fear. Most people's presentations are boring and uninteresting, and by the time that they're through, you really don't care about whatever point they're trying to make. So today, this video is going to try to help you make your audience hate you just a little bit less. By the time we're through, hopefully you'll leave your audiences walking away with a good idea of what you had in mind, a good impression of you, and fully awake and aware. To keep your audience aware and interested, you should first do a lot of preparation. The first thing you need to ask yourself is, why are you giving this presentation? Now, this seems like a fairly simple question, but it's an important one. The reason for giving your presentation will have a lot to do with how you're going to present the information. You need to have an idea who your audience is going to be and what they're trying to get out of it. You need to have an idea of what's going to impress your point upon them. And that point is the next most important thing. You need to understand what your point is. Again, this seems fairly obvious, but if you've had to sit through many presentations, you'll know that many people have no point. Your point is the same as your thesis statement in a written report. It has to be something important, it has to be something that you can prove, and you need to repeat it many times throughout your presentation. It's something you're going to be saying again and again, and everything you say in your presentation should come back to this single point. With your point in mind, you can start worrying about how you're going to prove it. You're going to need to know what you're talking about. In order to do this, you have to do lots of research. You're going to want to know everything you can about your topic. You're going to have to stand in front of people and prove to them that you're an expert, so it's important to feel that you are an expert. There's only one way to accomplish that: by doing lots and lots and lots of research. This is really the key to giving a good presentation. If you spend lots of time in the lab, the library, wherever you can do your research, you're going to find that you're going to be more confident, and that's going to come through to your audience. Your audience will be able to tell, especially if you have to answer questions, how deep your knowledge really is. You need to do way more research than you really need just to give a presentation until you can converse intelligently on the topic without a script. Ideally, you should always be able to work without any kind of notes. Now, once you have your information in hand, you need to start organizing it. In order to do so, draw up an outline. This is the same sort of structure that you would use if you were preparing an essay. First, you need to have your point. That's going to be your main statement and the first thing that you say. Now you're going to have the first fact that proves your point, and then more detail about that fact. You're going to go down on through until you conclude by restating your point. Now, each one of these subcategories refers back to your main point. Nothing that does not relate to that point should be in your presentation. If you create a particularly good outline, you'll find that regardless of how long your presentation is, 15 minutes, half an hour, 90 minutes, you'll be able to expand upon these main points. You can simply go into more detail in order to fill in the extra time. So at this point, your preparation should be done. You should know why you're doing this. You should know what you want to say, and you should be an expert on that topic. You're going to have your point in mind, and you're going to do lots of research so that you can give plenty of evidence to prove that point. What could possibly go wrong? What indeed? While intended to help give good presentations, PowerPoint often does just the opposite. PowerPoint many times can take a perfectly good presentation and render it completely boring and uninteresting. PowerPoint has a tendency to put people to sleep with long lists of bullet points and boring images. It's often used as a substitute for actual knowledge, Hiding behind the slides means that you're on a script and you don't have to actually know anything, you just have to read what they say. Everyone uses PowerPoint, and usually they do it fairly badly, meaning that most presentations look pretty much the same. This all makes it more distracting than useful in many instances. Now, it is necessary to use multimedia in a way that engages your audience. PowerPoint can be very handy for this, but only if you know how to use it well. To start with, get on the internet. Look for audio, video, and images that will illustrate your points. Most PowerPoint presentations are basically just an outline, bullet points, and text. This is not the good way of going about it. You should mostly use visuals and sound. Text should be kept to a minimum. Numbers should be turned into simple graphics. PowerPoint should reinforce your point using interesting information that supplements but does not replace what you're telling people. In order to use it this way, you're going to need to find audio, video, and images that illustrate your main point. This might seem like a serious challenge, but you're probably already familiar with the most useful tool you can find. Before you begin working on your PowerPoint, get onto Google. You've already done your research and have your point in mind. You know what kind of supporting arguments you're going to make. Now you need to find entertaining ways to present them. Remember, a good presentation should be more than just words. You should find ways to incorporate multimedia that you wouldn't in a paper. All you need to do is type your topic into Google and start searching for those resources. Now, let's see how you can use some of them. First, let's see what happens to someone who fails to use Google. Commissioned in 1840 by the British East India Company, Nemesis was built by the Birkenhead Iron Works in 3 months. She had a length of 56 meters, beam of 8.8 meters, a draft of 1.8 meters, and displaced 660 tons. Powered by 260 horsepower. Let's stop right there. You've probably seen presentations like this many times. A basic background with a slide in a boring font. Too much text, so much that you would have trouble reading it in the back of a room. Moreover, the presenter is simply reading the text. This is not an ideal way to present your information. Why would your audience want to listen to you if they can simply read the information on your slide? Possibly because you've made the slide impossible to read in any case. This serves no purpose. No one's interested in reading this. It doesn't really give them any information. It's simply boring. Instead, the very first rocket from the Nemesis was seen to enter the large junk, and almost the instant afterwards it blew up with a terrific explosion, launching into eternity every soul on board, and pouring forth its blaze like the mighty rush of fire from a volcano. The instantaneous destruction of the huge body seemed appalling to both sides engaged. The smoke and flame, the thunder of the explosion, with the broken fragments falling round, and even portions of dissevered bodies scattering as they fell, were enough to strike with awe, if not fear, the stoutest heart that looked upon it. Our first slide made war boring. In talking about a terrific naval battle, in which a new technology changed the course of the war, he used dry information and made it unexciting. Instead, our second example took a first-hand recounting from the story. While they weren't able to find any audio, they could read it in an exciting way, while showing a painting of the battle. A far more interesting way to give the same information to the audience. And all accomplished with just a little bit of searching on Google. Now, let's look at another common mistake. The first thing you'll probably notice is that this slide is absolutely painful on the eyes. The background color and text color are far too close to each other. Let's fix that right away. There we go. Much easier to read. Still, not a very good slide. We see what they're talking about. They've made their point. But it's uninteresting. The simple information is presented quickly and doesn't overwhelm the audience, and there is a picture. But the picture isn't very good. It's going to be difficult to see in the back of a room, and it's not very exciting. Let's look at how we can further improve this with just a little bit of work in Google and a little more work in PowerPoint. It's easy enough to find a better picture of the motorcycle. All we have to do is change the font and make it look a little better and shorten our bullet points just a little bit. Now we've got a slide that's much easier to look like, is going to be able to be seen easily from the back of the room, and doesn't manage to make something as exciting as motorcycles uninteresting. Now let's see how some of those features in PowerPoint, while intended to make a slide more interesting, can actually make your presentation painful to look at. Often people will simply use bullet points but animate them. In this instance, we see how, while talking about this short film, our presenter has chosen to have each line appear separately. In addition to that, he intends to have each one emphasized as he goes over it. This doesn't make this interesting, it just makes it harder to read. And he's only going to say the exact same things, trying to explain his point. Let's look at another alternative. Since we're talking about a video, why don't we just show it? Now, it's important to remember that you should keep your video brief and that it shouldn't replace your presentation. We've only used a short clip of the full film, only 10 to 30 seconds. Now that we've done that, we're going to want to explain how it reinforces our main point. Now, we can say exactly the same things that were in the bullet points. The Japators is a 1942 short film by Famous Studios. In it, Superman stops Japanese saboteurs from stealing a new bomber. It portrays Japanese Americans as secretly loyal to Japan. It's indicative of widespread fears and bigotry that led to Japanese American internment. We've expressed our point, and we've interested the audience by actually showing them part of the video. Far more interesting than simply flashing and twirling letters. Now, here we see a slide that's presenting some information, but it's hard to tell what that information is. The background that's been chosen just makes it hard to read. It's important not to use images in a way that distract. Backgrounds should be very simple. They should serve a purpose, and they should remain consistent throughout the presentation. In this case, this is one of the backgrounds that PowerPoint actually provides. It's a terrible choice. It's hard to read any text that is presented on it, so let's get rid of it. Okay, now without that awful background, we still have some problems. We've used way too many fonts. It's good to get away from the basic font, but this is too much. Worse, we've used too many different colors. It's difficult to read. It just is distracting. In addition, it's just a little bit boring. With a little bit of work, we can present this information in a far better way. First, let's look at the title. G.I. Joe. Well, that's the organization that we're giving a presentation to. Let's get rid of that and use their actual logo. Simply searching on Google found this information for us. You may be able to contact the graphics department or whoever does that kind of thing in your organization in order to get this kind of graphics if you can't find them on Google, especially if you're affiliated with that organization. Now, the rest of this slide is giving us some statistical information. It's telling us what important elements have to be considered as part of the battle. Red lasers, blue lasers, and knowing. And as we can see, knowing is half the battle. It's presented in simple numbers and text. There's a better way to present information. Consider using a graph. This pie chart gives the same information. The important components of the battle are 25% blue lasers, 25% red lasers, and of course, knowing is half the battle. By presenting the information in this way, it's much easier for an audience to immediately recognize what they're looking at. It's more interesting to them. It doesn't simply repeat what we're saying, so they have a reason to actually listen to us. The result is that we have a simple, clear, attractive, and informative slide that contributes information that supports our main point. Now, we have that point and we can support it. We've gotten our presentation ready. It doesn't suck. It's interesting. It uses sound and video and pictures to illustrate our points rather than boring people with lots and lots of text. We're going to give them the information in an interesting way, not just read slides at them. But you're still nervous. What are you going to do about that? The most important thing is not to panic, because most presentations are absolutely terrible. Yours is going to look great by comparison. Now, that's not going to be enough, of course. Are you sure you really know what you're talking about? As I said at the beginning, the best thing you can do to be confident is to be knowledgeable. Go back to the library, do more research. You need to really understand what you're talking about until you feel confident that you could answer any legitimate question that's asked of you. Once you're on stage, you want to try to be loose, conversational, not as if you're reading from a script. Don't stand behind a podium. That's often just used to comfort people. Get good sleep. Eat, but eat light. And stay away from caffeine. Make sure that you're prepared. You want to have multiple copies of your presentation. You want to have it on paper. You want to have it on a USB drive. You want to email it to yourself so that you can access it where you're at. Try to check the venue beforehand. Put it on a computer and get it on a presenter and see how it feels. Ideally, you should know your topic so well that you shouldn't need any presentation or notes or anything else to stand up and talk about it. But of course, it's best to be prepared for any problem. So, now you're an expert on your topic. You have a point and can support it. You're going to repeat it often, making sure that people understand how your evidence relates to that main point. Your presentation isn't boring. It uses video, it uses audio, it uses pictures to keep your audience entertained. And you shouldn't be worried anymore. You should have practiced extensively. You should have lots of preparation done. You should be an expert on this topic, and people should be interested to know what you have to say about it. Hopefully, what you've learned here will help you be more comfortable and give a better impression the next time you have to give a presentation. Just remember, as with anything, preparation is the key. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and good luck.